This is Amplifying Autism, where every voice matters and every story shines. Join us as autistic authors, professionals, and trailblazers share their journeys, real stories, and real insight from those changing the world, one conversation at a time. I'm so glad you joined us today because we have a real treat in store for you. Our guest is Dr. Temple Grandin. Temple Grandin is a distinguished professor of animal science at Colorado State University. Facilities that she has designed for handling livestock are used by many companies around the world. She's also been instrumental in implementing animal welfare auditing programs that are used by McDonald's, Wendy's, Whole Foods, and other corporations. Temple has appeared on numerous TV shows, such as 2020 and Primetime. Her books include Thinking in Pictures, Livestock Handling and Transport, and The Autistic Brain. Now, her books Animals in Translation and Visual Thinking have been on the New York Times bestseller list. Temple was inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame in September of 2017. In 2022, she was named a Colorado State University Distinguished Professor. In 2023, she was inducted into the Colorado Authors Hall of Fame, and in 2025, she was inducted into the Smithsonian National Portrait Museum. If you haven't seen the HBO movie of her life, Temple Grandin, starring Claire Danes, I highly recommend it. Today, Temple will be talking with us about the problems many autistic people face in finding and keeping meaningful employment. I'm so pleased to be able to welcome Dr. Temple Grandin to the podcast. Temple, thank you so much for being here today.
Great to be here.
Now, one thing that I know you and I have in common is we're both really concerned about employment and autism. That's a real issue today.
Yes.
And I do want to just hold this up for a minute. One of your many books is the one that you wrote with Kate Duffy, Developing Talents.
Yes, that's right.
And do you want to talk a little bit about that and some of the wisdom in that book?
Well, I tell employers that we need the skills of autistic people. I spent 25 years out in industrial construction supervising installation of equipment I had designed. And some of this equipment had been built by people that owned metalworking shops that were definitely undiagnosed autistic. And they had a fantastic patent portfolio. And it would all be mechanical devices. And we need the skills. I had lunch meeting today with a company that builds meatpacking plants, and they're very concerned that we don't have people to maintenance things. Like I had them write to me one time on a text, I don't know how long my beautiful plant can run on new because we don't have good maintenance people. And I'll tell you why. They're playing video games in the basement on a disability check when they ought to be building equipment and fixing equipment.
Yeah.
And this is why I did my book, Visual Thinking.
Yes, I didn't have that to hold up, but I was hoping you would have it. That's your newest book, I think.
That's one of my newest books.
Yeah, it's so important.
In that, I discussed different kinds of thinkers. Visual thinkers like me cannot do higher math. Some of these people that I worked with, super good builders, they cannot do higher math. And I'm worried about being screened out. We need these skills. I recently had a meeting with another huge construction company that does gigantic industrial projects, and the skilled craftspeople that know how to build complicated things, they're very concerned about how are they going to replace these people. You see, that is your problem. How are these people going to get replaced? And then there's also the mathematical thinkers. But there's research that shows that a visual thinker and a mathematical thinker are very different. Like a mathematical engineer would say, I build it to the spec, but doesn't question the spec. And then you have people that think in words who tend to overgeneralize. Because the problem you got with autism is you're going from Bill Gates, who's now official, he's on the spectrum, to somebody that's not able to dress themselves, and they're all got the same name.
Yeah.
It's like gross overgeneralization.
It is, yes.
But
But
employment, I'm seeing too often kids going through college with an autism diagnosis, good grades in college, don't make it in the workplace. And
mm,
part of the problem is they're not learning work skills uh, uh, when they're still in college. In fact, I just talked to a parent last night, and his kids are going to be going into college. And I said, and he's had no work experience.
oh
And I
no.
told him, I said, your kid's got to get some work experience this summer. Absolutely has got to.
Yes. When you and I were young, Temple, kids could go out and get a paper route. Just about anybody could get a paper route. But what are kids going to do today? What are some options for kids to work?
Well, the important thing is working for somebody on a schedule for a boss that is outside the family.
Yes.
Really important. So let's look at simple things they can do, things that even a low income family can do. The kid could walk dogs for the neighbors. And the parents will say, well, they walk our dog. I want him walking Mr. Jones's dog. And every day at 6:30 in the morning, he's got to give that dog a half an hour quality walk and
Yeah.
be responsible.
Yeah.
Or maybe a church volunteer job
Uh-huh.
would be another thing. There was one kid that became the bingo man at the nursing home that was next door.
Oh, good idea.
There's a lot of things like this that they could do. Help out at the farmers market, things that could be just done in the neighborhood. I call
Mhm.
those paper route substitutes.
Yes.
But then once they become of age, they need to be getting real jobs. And this is where it's not happening. I have grandparents come up to me all the time. They discover they're autistic later in life.
Yeah.
They all had decent jobs.
Mhm.
It's because they had paper routes and things like this.
Yeah, that
Learn how to
explains.
work early. Uh,
Yeah.
and and I have another book called Different Not Less. It's
Yes.
18 people diagnosed later in life,
Mhm.
and they all have jobs, learning working skills. I talked to an interesting man recently. He came up to me at a hotel restaurant, and he was diagnosed at age 18 and already had working skills. You
Good.
see, parents tend to kind of baby these kids, and they're not getting out and doing working skills. And he is a ticket agent for a major airline on the front counter.
Mhm.
I said, congratulations, be really proud of that ID that's hanging around your
Yeah,
neck. You earned that.
that's right.
That's but I think it may have helped them from the job front to have been diagnosed at 18.
Mhm.
Now, a lot of late diagnosed adults will say, it totally helped me on relationships,
Ah,
getting the diagnosis. That explains so many things, and it was a relief. But I think on the job front, on the kids that are fully vocal, and they can do well in school, that the label's holding them back.
yeah. And, I think you made an important distinction. Somebody could walk their family dog and maybe earn some pocket money from their parents, but it is completely different when you work for a boss outside the home, isn't it?
I think that's really important. It has to be Mr. Jones's dog.
Yeah.
And the reason why I recommend the dog walking and church volunteer jobs
Uh-huh.
is they cost nothing to implement.
Yeah. And, people need their dogs walked. Not everybody can do that, whether because of their age or because they work.
The other thing that's good about dog walking, it's not seasonal.
Yeah, the dog's always there year
Where
round.
shuffling sidewalks would be seasonal.
Yeah. What are some advice you could give to late diagnosed adults who find that they can get a job and then they keep losing jobs?
All right, let's look at why they're losing a job. Let's
Yes.
start out with just being late and not being on time.
Uh-huh.
And I have had an autism consultant about a year ago, I was talking to him, say that some of these people are time blind. Well, I
Oh.
never had that problem.
Hmm.
And what I'm wondering is I grew up in the world of old fashioned clocks with hands. And I think they give a better idea about the passage of time. I
Yes.
remember a great big school clock we had, and you can still get these, where you'd watch the second hand go around and then the minute hand would go click. And you could actually see it move a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think, and then you can look at it and say, well, breakfast is at 7, lunch is at 12, and dinner is at 6. You can kind of put that on the clock dial. But being on time is a major issue.
Yeah.
Uh, Now, that was kind of pounded into me. But of course, I grew up with old fashioned clocks. And then hygiene. Yep, there's a
Hmm.
scene in the HBO movie,
I
which
remember
is
it.
absolutely true. When they slam the deodorant down, that actually happened. And I thank that boss now.
And a lot of bosses, especially today, would be afraid of being, complaints to HR or something if they were blunt about something personal like that.
Well, and I had a manager of a veterinary clinic talk to me about this autistic lady that worked for them, and what
Hmm.
about hygiene? I said you need to pull her aside in private
Yes.
and basically tell her she's got to clean it up.
Yeah.
And there's lots of choices of products.
Oh, yeah. There's so much available. Now, some people that I've talked to, they get accused of being rude when it was never their intention to be rude. But their style of communication doesn't seem to gel with the other people in their workplace.
Well, I heard about a guy that had worked for the motor vehicles department for years,
Hmm.
and got a new boss, and the new boss thought he was rude. See, this is where um, you have to explain to them exactly what they're doing that sounds rude, and
Yes.
then suggest another way of approaching the client or the customer.
I think that is great advice. Far too often we get people who just they didn't have that opportunity, or when they said, "What about what I said? What was rude about that?" Then they think that you're talking back. It's like, of course you know what was rude. Why do you have this attitude now? When they
Well,
just
I
want
think that
information.
you have to remember that teaching them is like teaching somebody in a foreign country.
Mhm.
Everything has to be explained.
Yeah, that makes sense. Can I ask you, what was one of your favorite parts of this new book that you have out?
Well, I on the new book on visual thinking.
Visual thinking, yes.
Um, well, I really like the research that shows that there really are different kinds of thinking,
Mhm.
and the correct name for my kind of thinking, who's terrible at math, is an object visualizer.
Object
And the kinds
visualizer.
of things that I'd be good at, mechanical stuff,
Mhm.
working with animals, because animals are definitely not word thinkers,
Yeah.
photography and art. And then you have the mathematician that thinks in patterns.
Mhm.
And a lot of people are mixtures of the different kinds of thinking.
Oh,
But I'm very concerned that our extreme visualizers are going to get screened out with all the algebra requirements. I have problems remembering it. And it's starting to show up in industry. We don't
mhm.
have people to fix things. We no longer have the weird guy in the maintenance shop that can fix anything.
Yeah. There's an expectation that if it's broken, buy a new one instead of
Well, you
fix it.
can't do that with major equipment in a factory.
No,
You're
no,
not going to just buy a new one.
too
It's too expensive.
expensive. Yeah. If you could, uh, if you could give some advice to late diagnosed autistic adults who are just now realizing that they're autistic, they've lived their whole life without knowing it, and suddenly they're getting this diagnosis, or they suspect that they are, but they don't have a diagnosis yet. Uh, what could you tell them about autism that might help them understand themselves better?
Well, in the Different Not Less book, 18 people diagnosed later in life described their experiences,
Uh-huh.
and they all had jobs and were keeping the jobs. But on
Good.
relationships, it really made a big difference.
Ah,
It made a huge difference.
so the knowledge, knowing that they were autistic made a difference.
Well, it explains why there's kind of a chit chat that people do. It's hard for me to do. I have a hard time following it.
Mhm.
It's difficult for me to follow.
Yeah. And I have talked to people who have difficulty with relationships. My late husband, we didn't know that he was autistic when we got married, but it turns out he was. And I think we just happen to have similar communication styles and
Yeah,
interests, so that even though I'm not autistic, we still got along really well, for all 27 years that we had together. But not everyone has that experience.
most of them found it to be a relief. But one of the people that was in the Different Not Less book was a lady who worked for
Mhm.
Intel.
Ah,
Uh, that used to, when they used to back in the well, I don't know, 15 years ago, computers would say Intel inside.
oh yes, I
That
remember.
was the right chip. And one of the
Yeah.
bosses said, I wonder if you would have become a vice president in this company if you'd known you were autistic.
Hmm.
Would it have held you back?
It's a good question.
Because I think some of them it's holding them back. Like the guy that's the ticket agent for a major airline, he was
Uh-huh.
18. He already been working a bunch of jobs like baggage handler
Oh, good.
and keeping the jobs. You see, because there were
Uh-huh.
expectations. I'm seeing too many parents. They're just too reluctant to get the kids to do things. You've got 16-year-olds that have never gone shopping and they're fully verbal.
Oh,
Like, you've
yeah.
got to be kidding.
Yeah. Some of the autistic adults that I know, even before they knew that they were autistic, they found themselves just going through one job after another. And and they would burn out after a short amount of time because it was so stressful to try to interpret the communication from their bosses who uh, didn't really explain things, and they might want to say, but this is the wrong way to do it, you should do it this other way, and then they would get fired for being insubordinate and talking back to their boss, even though the boss
Well, one of the
wasn't very
things
smart.
that what I did with what I did, I learned to sell my work.
Ah.
One of the first jobs I got, I was livestock editor for our state farm magazine,
Uh-huh.
and I got a reputation for writing accurate articles on when I covered meetings. And then when I started designing things, I'd show off my portfolios. I was also freelance.
Ah.
And the people that I worked with that owned the metal shops and the welding shops that were successful, they 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 had their own businesses,
Aha.
and that helped to make it successful.
And you had a visual product, your portfolio that you could
Yeah,
show
I
them.
had a product that I could show off. That's
Yeah.
right.
And, I think, it would be good for a lot of people to be able to not just go to an interview, because usually with an interview, it's the person who does a good job at interviewing, not a person who would do a good job on the workplace.
Well,
Um,
that's just it.
yeah,
And I've got to show. I never showed my portfolio to HR. I showed it to the plant manager,
because they
the
knew.
cattle buyer,
Yeah.
somebody that would really appreciate it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because at the level of going to a job interview, they have no idea how good that person might be on the job. They're just judging them on how good are they at sitting in an interview. But going,
Well, we also have to look at the jobs that AI is going to affect. Video game design, that's going to get eaten up by AI. A lot of
oh,
illustration will be taken over by AI,
goodness.
but hands-on jobs, high-end skilled trades,
Hmm.
that's not going to get taken over by AI.
So those are the fields to go into, sounds
Oh,
like.
the other fields go into it, but AI is not going to touch it. A nurse,
Oh,
that's not going to get replaced.
oh, that's so important. Yeah.
Anything that is very much hands-on.
Okay.
Now, jobs, I could see a job like scheduling trucks.
Huh.
I could see AI doing that.
Yeah. But, I'm thinking that being in, like, an airport tower directing the planes, they might not be able to do that, I think we're still gonna need humans for that.
Yeah, there's going to be things we're going to definitely need humans for.
Yeah.
Fixing things, we're
Fixing
going to definitely
things.
need people.
Yeah.
Um, there's a lot of things where middle management type of jobs that are going to go away. And right now, tech companies are not hiring beginner level programmers,
Oh,
and the big tech companies, they are about anywhere from 20 to 40% of their programming is now done by AI.
oh my goodness, 20 to 40%.
Yeah, it depends upon the company.
Yeah.
20, some are 20%, 30%, right around there. Just read that just the other day.
Uh-huh.
And so if you're going to go into, let's say you're math oriented,
Yeah.
you really liked coding, the kind of job that you might want to go into cybersecurity. Another job would be IT director for a local bank,
Oh.
a hospital, a school district.
Uh-huh.
They're still going to need somebody to be overseeing all this stuff.
Yeah, they definitely want a human being to interpret that whole cyber world for them.
That's right. And make sure it doesn't, get off of rails and start doing something weird.
Yes.
Uh, then the article, the job I did
Uh-huh.
originally, I would go to cattle feeders meeting and I covered the meeting.
Hmm.
I summarized the talks. AI will probably do those kind of reporting, but there would still need to be a reporting like features and really important stuff. But just a run of the mill, go to a meeting of the school board or the meeting of uh, the town meeting.
Yeah.
AI can just summarize the
They
topics.
summarize those already. Yeah.
I know they do.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, my I still would have some of my job at the Arizona Fire Arrangement if I had that today.
Uh-huh.
Job I had in my 20s, I would lose. There'd be about 30% of it I would no longer do.
Mm.
Show and sale results, but they're probably still going to need somebody to take pictures of the
Oh,
animals.
yeah. And to interpret.
Um,
Hmm.
and then feature articles,
Oh,
picking out like is a new dairy being built, do a feature on it. I did those kind of articles,
uh-huh.
picking out interesting things to do features on because I know about stuff that's going on. And then designing cattle facilities, I could see AI doing a lot of that.
But would they have
You know,
the
it's laying out a beef plan. I just was meeting with some people today. And I got a big, huge drawing of a facility based on my designs, and
Mhm.
I look at that and I'm going, AI could probably be. I could train AI to lay those out.
Well, I hadn't thought I was thinking that AI couldn't get your perspective of really looking at it from the animal's point of view, but I guess you could train it.
Well, you can train it. And there
Yeah.
was an article in the Wall Street Journal yesterday on the hot job now is training AI systems to take over your job.
Whoa,
That was front page Wall Street Journal yesterday.
goodness. So for autistic people who are just coming into the workforce, and are looking for a career, being able to fix something important, the big things in the factories and in manufacturing and in tech, um, that are going to need repair, will need someone who's highly trained in how to fix those things that they can't just throw away and buy a new one. Does that
Well, the visual thinkers, the ones who can't do math,
visual thinkers?
they be fixing things. Also
Yeah.
inventing mechanical equipment. Because what I found on building something like a beef plant,
Uh-huh.
the visual thinkers do all the mechanical equipment, and the more mathematical engineers do the refrigeration.
Okay.
That requires more mathematics.
Uh-huh.
Um, but you do a real hands-on thing. A nurse, I always said that's not going to get replaced.
No, we're going to have nurses and doctors.
And we're still going to need to have school teachers
Yeah, I hope so.
because we're finding with all the online stuff, the schools are finding that mental health's better when they start getting rid of the phones and people get
Yeah.
back to doing actual real things.
Yes, with people.
That's right.
Yeah. It makes
With
such
people.
a difference.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
So, before we say goodbye today, is there any question that you wish that I had asked you or anything you'd like to talk about that just hasn't come up yet?
Well, you see, some of the people diagnosed later in life may have actually done better in the job field
Hmm.
because they were kind of pushed to get out and do things.
Uh-huh.
Also, I'm seeing too many kids that aren't learning to drive, and
Ah,
that is going to take longer.
yeah.
You've got to get the driving of the car like into autopilot in your head, into motor memory, before you start doing freeways and big ramps and the scary stuff.
Yeah.
And you need to practice in a safe place like a big parking lot or open fields for long time, but work into it slowly. Like this dad that I talked to last night,
Uh-huh.
I say, yeah, let's work on driving. You can do it slowly, but we need to be doing it.
And I
And
yeah.
if I hadn't learned to drive, that would have really limited what I could have done in the cattle industry.
Oh, that's so true. Being able to get from one place to another without relying on the buses or other systems is really gonna be helpful in the workforce.
Well, the problem is out in the rural areas, there aren't any buses.
You have to drive.
You have to drive,
Yeah.
otherwise you can't get there.
But I like what you said about slowly, because the more practice someone gets doing something, the more experience they have, the more natural it feels, doesn't it?
Well, that's right.
Yeah.
That's another little thing. Pilots checklists.
Ah,
Okay, let's
yes.
say we're working at the coffee shop and you're going to make all these, exotic coffee drinks.
Yeah.
make checklists of how you do the latte mocha, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Write down the steps for cleaning the ice cream machine. Write them down. And we need to teach autistic individuals to do that.
Yeah.
Make their own checklists. Because if the boss just goes, yak, 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 this is how you make this coffee, I don't remember it.
Yeah, it's all
But
verbal.
write
Yeah.
down the steps,
Yeah, that's
and that can really make a difference.
so important, being able to see those steps, and then you can just check them off.
That's right.
Yeah, and some of those jobs have quite a few steps, but you can break them down into groups, you know,
That's right.
prep and then doing the job and then the cleanup afterwards, and if you don't
Well, you see, if you look at pilot's checklists, for a great big airplane,
Uh-huh.
there may be 100 items on the checklist. You don't just throw that all at the pilot. It's, when you first get on board, you check, then pre-taxi, pre-takeoff. It's in chunks.
Yes.
You have your pre-taxi checklist. Then when you start to taxi, there's another checklist. Then before you take off, there's another checklist.
Mhm.
It's put into chunks with maybe 7 items in each chunk
Yeah,
of the flight.
but each chunk is manageable.
Yeah, it's broken into manageable chunks.
Yeah, and
Because you put too many things in each chunk, it's not manageable.
that is so true. I think that's true for all of us. We can't do everything at once. We can't hold everything at once in our brains. Most of us can't. Um,
Well, what are you finding on the late diagnosed autistics you're talking to on the job front? What are you finding?
well, one thing I'm finding is the problem of burnout. They mask really hard and they try really hard, and it's more and more stressful. And at some point, they just burn out and they end up being, uh, having to quit that job and then start over.
So they're having to quit it due to burnout.
Yeah,
They might want to look at my book, Thinking in Pictures, because my anxiety got worse and worse and worse as I went through my 20s.
yeah.
Absolutely got
Mm,
worse and worse and worse.
mhm.
And I've been on antidepressant medication since my early 30s. It saved me. And some of this burnout may be just increasing anxiety and biology.
Yeah.
And the other thing we have to, and the medication made my colitis clear up.
Oh,
That got a whole lot better.
so it can have multiple benefits.
And the other thing they got to do is get enough exercise. A lot of them are not getting enough exercise.
Yeah.
I do 120 old lady push-ups every night,
Wow.
100 strokes on the floor every night, and I don't like it, but it helps me.
Uh,
I've got to make myself do it.
I don't do the push-ups, but I go to Zumba at the senior center.
Oh, but you got to do it,
I've got to
several
do it.
times a
Got to
week.
show up.
You've got
And
to do it. That's the thing.
yeah, and I'm
And
socially motivated. I know that those people are going to expect to see me show up, just like I expect to see
also,
them. So
also the Zumba is something you can do with other people, so you
yes,
can get friends through that
yeah,
shared activity of doing the Zumba or some
definitely,
other thing that you do.
yeah, it
But I know people that have had good jobs fixing things that
mhm,
they didn't get burned out. They just loved
good.
fixing stuff at the plant. And a time that can be very dangerous is changing bosses.
Yes, I have heard that
That's
too.
where a lot
Yes,
of jobs get lost.
yeah. It might be someone that just doesn't understand them or just doesn't like them. It is what it seems like to some of the people I talk to is like they just don't like me. They think I'm rude.
Yeah,
I try to ask a question and they just get mad at me and yeah, changing bosses is hard.
changing bosses. I almost lost my job at the magazine because when we got a new boss, he thought it was weird. And fortunately, the lady that did the ad layout,
Mhm.
I think she was also on the spectrum. She said, "We got to get together a great big portfolio of all the articles you've written to show to the new boss."
Yeah,
I didn't recognize the warning signs, and she saved my job. And
good
we
for
got a
her.
big portfolio together.
Yeah, and
But I think we've got to be, uh, uh, sell your work.
yes.
Learn to sell your work, and we have to look at why the job's getting lost.
Yeah. Yeah. But that visual
And
represent
yeah, being on time has been a major factor I've run
yeah.
into.
Yeah, and I know some people who will be, like, early, just religiously early every single time. And then, as you say, some people do have a certain time blindness. Um, but
Well, I think one of the things I'd like to just try using some old-fashioned clocks,
that
or
visual,
the ones that are chronically late. Uh, use a clock with hands.
yeah, I know some
I
people
think it
that don't know how to tell time with those because
okay, well, fine.
yeah,
Then
but
if
they
the
can
digital
learn.
clock works for them, then use the digital clock.
But the
Let's just use whatever works.
Yeah, the visual, seeing the hands move and being able to see how much of that circle has been taken up, I think you get a sense of time more on a circular than on that little digital with the numbers clicking by.
Well, I had kind of a hard time when I was understanding the passage of time to look at the big school clock,
Mhm.
and I could actually see the minute hand move a little bit every time the second hand went around.
Yeah, and
That was very helpful to me.
yeah, now when I was teaching, they had a thing which now anybody can buy, but it's called, I think it was called Timey Time or something like that, where it would be a red circle that would become white or a white circle that would become red
Yeah.
as the minutes go by. So it's a very clear representation of what an hour is.
Yes.
Because for the visual people, the digital clock is not going to really give them good information.
No, but they think we have to look at why is this person losing a job?
Yes,
Being on time,
yes,
somebody thinks they're rude.
yeah,
Those are two different things.
yes,
See, then what we have to do is coach them on how to talk. Just explain to them that this is the one way they talk so you won't sound rude.
yeah. Yeah, I think coaching is very important. If you can get
No, I
a
think it is too.
yeah.
And no, I think it's super important.
So, do you have any more, words of advice for, young people in the workplace before we say goodbye today?
Well, because I worked with a lot of people that were autistic in the workplace, managed to keep jobs for
Good.
years.
Yeah.
Then there were bad things when they might have been in a job working in a maintenance shop, and they got a new boss, and things went
Mm.
bad. I would recommend always keep your evaluations, so that let's so that you can take those out and show them to the new boss.
Yeah.
Show them your works. If it's repair work, things you've repaired.
Oh, good idea.
Uh, to show that's how I saved my job at the magazine
Yeah.
when we got a new boss.
That was smart. Yeah.
And got to thank the lady who does the advertising layout. I didn't
Mhm.
see the warning signs, and she suggested I get together the portfolio together, and I did.
And that is excellent advice. I hope that everybody listening is gonna take that to heart and get those visual representations of what they can do. And I love what you
Yeah,
said about keeping your positive, job reviews so that when you get a new
yeah.
boss.
Yes, I would keep all that stuff. I'd print it out in paper
Mhm.
and keep it at home.
Okay. So it can't be lost.
That's right. That's right.
Good advice. So, I know if people want your books, and you've held up one and I've held up one, but there are too many for us to be able to hold up here.
Well, if you're interested in autism books, you can go to templegrandin.com. That has all my books.
Okay.
And if you're interested in the livestock work, you can go to grandin.com. It's my last name, and that has all my livestock books with links to Amazon.
Okay. So templegrandin.com for the autism books,
Yes,
grandin.com for the cattle work.
that's correct.
And I will put those in the show notes so that people can reach out to you.
Okay, that sounds really good.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here today, Temple. I've really enjoyed our
It,
conversation.
it was great to be here.
Thanks. And have a good rest of your day. Always a gift to listen to Temple Grandin share her wealth of knowledge, both research and lived experience. Some of the things I'll remember from this episode are Temple advises parents to make sure their autistic children have real, structured work experience outside of the family, such as walking a neighbor's dog at a specific time every day, volunteering at a church, nursing home, or working at a farmer's market. Some late diagnosed autistic people find a career that suits them and they stay with it, while others struggle to find and maintain employment. Temple says If you keep losing jobs, look to the reasons you lose the jobs to find solutions that will fit the problem. For instance, if you have time blindness, so you're often late, consider switching from a digital timepiece to an analog watch or clock to visually track a time passing. If you're accused of rudeness, ask for specific feedback and consider working with a coach on your communication style on the job. If you have poor hygiene, maybe no one at work will come right out and tell you to use deodorant, the way Temple's boss did when she was young. You'll need to take care of personal hygiene yourself. Finally, having a new boss is difficult, and many people have done great work under one supervisor only to be fired when someone new is in charge. Temple advises you that you print out and save at home all of your past evaluations and job reviews, as well as a record of all the things you've accomplished successfully. Visual thinkers often do well in mechanical fields, building and repairing complex systems, tech, and machinery. Mathematical thinkers are good at building something to spec, but they may not question the spec if it's wrong somewhere. And language thinkers who think in words often overgeneralize. Temple says jobs which will probably not be taken over by AI include high-end hands-on jobs in tech, nursing, and teaching. Unfortunately, 20 to 30% of entry-level programming positions are now being taken over by AI. If you're a coder, consider looking for work in cybersecurity or tech for a local hospital, school district, or a bank. Temple reminds us that the workforce needs the skills that autistic people have. Check out her latest book, Visual Thinking: The Hidden Gifts of People Who Think in Pictures, Patterns, and Abstractions, as well as her books, Developing Talents, Different Not Less, and so many more. Thank you for listening to Amplifying Autism. I'm your host, Wendell Whitcomb Marsh, and I'm looking forward to next time. You've been listening to Amplifying Autism, celebrating the voices that shape a more understanding world. Don't miss the next episode. More stories, more insight, and more voices that matter.